The timid waitress found a crying child under the Sheikh Billionaire's table. The truth behind him shocked the world. The rain hammered against the tall windows of the Azure Pearl, one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants, where a single reservation could cost more than most people earned in a month. Inside, the soft glow of crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across white marble floors, and the quiet murmur of wealthy patrons created an atmosphere of refined elegance. But for Emma Carter, none of this mattered. She moved through the dining room like a ghost, her green eyes fixed on the floor, her movements precise and practiced. At 25, she had perfected the art of being invisible. Emma adjusted her crisp white blouse and smoothed down her black pencil skirt as she approached table 7. Her chestnut hair was pulled back into a tight bun, not a single strand out of place. She had learned long ago that the less attention she drew to herself, the easier her shifts became. The other servers whispered about her, calling her strange, too quiet, too withdrawn. They didn't know her story. They didn't know that 3 years ago, she had been Dr. Emma Carter, a rising star in child psychology with a degree from Columbia University and a revolutionary treatment protocol that was changing lives. But that life was gone now, destroyed by betrayal so complete that it had shattered her into pieces she was still trying to reassemble. Now she was just Emma, the timid waitress who never made eye contact and never caused trouble. The restaurant manager, Gerald, a portly man with a perpetually anxious expression, rushed toward her with unusual urgency. "Emma," he hissed, grabbing her elbow, "I need you in the private dining room. Now!" Emma's heart sank. The private dining room was reserved for only the most important guests, and she preferred to stay in the background, away from demanding clientele. "Can't you send Rebecca? She's better with—" "No," Gerald interrupted, his face flushed. "Sheikh Rashid Al-Mansour specifically requested our most discreet server. That's you. He's worth $8.7 billion. Emma, $8.7 billion. Do not mess this up." Before she could protest, Gerald was steering her toward the ornate double doors at the back of the restaurant. Emma's hands trembled slightly as she pushed through them, entering a world of even greater opulence. The private dining room was a masterpiece of design, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering Manhattan skyline, a table that could seat 20 set with gold-rimmed china, and artwork that probably cost more than she would earn in her lifetime. But what dominated the room was the man seated at the head of the table. Sheikh Rashid Al-Mansour was exactly as imposing as the rumors suggested. He sat with the posture of someone who had never doubted his place in the world, his broad shoulders filling out a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that probably cost $50,000. His face was striking, with sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw covered by a meticulously groomed beard, and dark brown eyes that seemed to assess and dismiss everything they saw in an instant. He was 48, but he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had conquered empires. Around him sat 4 men in expensive suits, clearly advisors or business associates, and 2 security guards stood by the door, their eyes constantly scanning. Emma approached with her notepad, keeping her gaze lowered. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to the Azure Pearl. May I start you with something to drink?" Rashid didn't even look at her. He continued speaking in rapid Arabic to the man on his right, discussing what sounded like oil futures and investment portfolios. To him, Emma was furniture, part of the background, utterly beneath his notice. She stood there, waiting, feeling the familiar burn of insignificance. This was her life now. She took their drink orders in silence, noting that Rashid ordered a rare vintage of wine that cost $12,000 per bottle and retreated to fulfill their requests. For the next hour, Emma moved in and out of the private dining room, serving course after course of exquisite cuisine. Rashid never acknowledged her presence, never said thank you, never even glanced in her direction. His associates were the same, treating her like an automaton designed solely to meet their needs. She had grown used to this treatment, had learned to let it wash over her without feeling. But tonight something felt different. There was a tension in the room, an undercurrent of something she couldn't quite identify. As she was clearing the main course, she heard it, a sound so soft that she almost missed it beneath the conversation of the man. A whimper, a child's whimper. Emma froze, her hand still holding a plate. She glanced around the room, but none of the men seemed to notice. They continued their discussion about a merger in Dubai, their voices confident and loud. But there was again, clearer this time, a muffled sob coming from beneath the table. Her professional instincts, dormant for 3 years, suddenly roared to life. That was a child in distress. Every fiber of her being, every hour of training, every case she had worked on before her world collapsed, told her that a child needed help. Emma set down the plates carefully and did something she never did. She spoke without being addressed. "Excuse me, sir," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Rashid continued talking, not even pausing. "Sir," she tried again, slightly louder. This time, one of his associates glanced at her with irritation. "The Sheikh is busy. Whatever it is can wait." But Emma couldn't wait. The whimpering was growing more desperate. She made a decision that would change everything. She stepped closer to the table and, with trembling hands, lifted the edge of the pristine white tablecloth. What she saw made her heart break into 1,000 pieces. Huddled beneath the table, pressed against the ornate leg, was a small boy. He couldn't have been more than 6 years old, with dark curly hair, olive skin, and enormous brown eyes swimming with tears. He was wearing expensive clothes, a small designer suit that marked him as part of Rashid's world, but his face was a mask of pure terror. His small body shook with silent sobs, and his arms were wrapped tightly around his knees, as if trying to make himself disappear. Emma's training took over. She slowly lowered herself to her knees, making herself small and non-threatening. The conversation above continued, oblivious. She met the boy's eyes and gave him the gentlest smile she could manage. "Hello," she whispered softly. "My name is Emma. What's yours?" The boy just stared at her, his tears flowing faster, but he didn't make a sound. Emma recognized the signs immediately. This wasn't just fear. This was trauma. Deep, profound trauma that taught this child that making noise was dangerous, that being seen was dangerous. She needed to reach him. But how? Then she remembered something from her years of research. Children who had experienced severe trauma often responded better to their native language, to something familiar in a world that had become terrifying. Emma took a breath and switched to Arabic, her pronunciation perfect from the 2 years she had spent studying in Jordan during her graduate program. She said softly, "I am here to help you. You are safe." The effect was immediate. The boy's eyes widened in shock, and for the first time, he seemed to truly see her. His crying quieted slightly, and he tilted his head, studying her face. Above them, the conversation had stopped abruptly. Emma was so focused on the child that she didn't notice the sudden silence, didn't see Rashid Al-Mansour slowly push back his chair and lean down to see what was happening beneath his table. Emma continued gently, "What is your name?" The boy's lips moved, but no sound came out. He tried again, his small face contorting with effort, but still nothing. Emma's heart clenched. Selective mutism, likely trauma-induced. She had seen it before in her practice, in children who had witnessed or experienced something so terrible that their voices had simply stopped working. "It's okay," she whispered, still in Arabic. "You don't have to speak. Can you show me with your fingers how old you are?" Slowly, hesitantly, the boy held up 6 trembling fingers. 6 years old. Emma said warmly, "That's a wonderful age. You know what? When I'm scared, I like to take deep breaths. Can you breathe with me? Like this." She demonstrated, taking a slow, exaggerated breath in through her nose and out through her mouth. The boy watched her carefully, and after a moment he mimicked her. Once, twice, 3 times. His shaking began to subside just slightly. "That's perfect," Emma encouraged. "You're doing so well. Now I'm going to stay right here with you, okay? You're not alone. What exactly do you think you're doing?" The voice was cold, sharp, and filled with authority. Emma's head snapped up, and she found herself staring directly into the dark, furious eyes of Sheikh Rashid Al-Mansour. He had moved his chair back and was now crouched beside her, his expensive suit somehow still immaculate despite the awkward position. Up close, he was even more intimidating, his presence overwhelming. There's a child," Emma stammered, her usual timidity returning in full force. He's crying. He's scared. I am aware of the child's presence. Rashid cut her off, his accent thick but his English perfect. He is my concern, not yours. Return to your duties. But Emma couldn't. Every instinct she had, every principle she had built her career on, rebelled against leaving a traumatized child. Sir, with respect, he needs help. He's exhibiting signs of severe trauma and... You are a waitress, Rashid said, each word like a chip of ice. You serve food. You do not presume to diagnose or treat anyone, especially not a member of my family. Now leave before I have you removed. Emma felt her face flush with humiliation, but she held her ground. I'm not just a waitress, she said quietly, surprising herself with her own courage. I'm a child psychologist. Or I was. And that little boy is suffering. Whatever happened to him, whatever he's been through, ignoring it will only make it worse. For the first time, Rashid's expression shifted. The cold anger was replaced by something else. Surprise. Calculation. He studied her face for a long moment, and Emma forced herself not to look away. A psychologist, he repeated slowly. From Columbia University, perhaps, with a specialization in childhood trauma. Emma's blood ran cold. How did he know that? Yes. How did you? I'm making my business to know everything about everyone who comes near my family, Rashid said. I had you investigated the moment you were assigned to this room. Dr. Emma Carter, graduated top of your class, published 3 groundbreaking papers on trauma recovery in children, developed the Carter Protocol for treating selective mutism. And then, 3 years ago, you vanished from the professional world entirely. Quite the fall from grace. The words hit Emma like physical blows. He knew everything. The shame, the humiliation, the destruction of everything she had worked for, all that was laid bare in his knowing gaze. What I don't know, Rashid continued, his voice slightly softer, is why a woman of your qualifications is serving tables in a restaurant. Emma's throat tightened. She couldn't speak, couldn't explain the betrayal, the theft, the way Marcus had destroyed her so completely that she couldn't even bear to be in a clinical setting anymore. Beneath the table, the little boy whimpered again, and both adults turned their attention back to him. Emma saw something flash across Rashid's face. Pain. Deep, profound pain that he quickly masked. His name is Amir, Rashid said quietly. He is my nephew, my brother's son. 6 months ago, there was an accident, a car crash. His parents, my brother and sister-in-law, were killed instantly. Amir was in the back seat. He saw everything. And since that day, he has not spoken a single word. Emma's heart shattered. I'm so sorry, she whispered. That's unimaginable trauma for a child so young. I have taken him in, of course, Rashid continued. He is family, but I do not know how to reach him. I have hired the best child psychologists in the world. They come to my home, they try their techniques, and he just stares at them with those empty eyes. Tonight, I brought him here thinking a change of environment might help. Instead, he crawled under the table the moment we arrived and has been there ever since. I was going to let him stay there until he was ready to come out, but then you appeared. He responded to me, Emma said softly. Did you see? When I spoke to him in Arabic, when I showed him the breathing technique. He's not unreachable, Sheikh Al-Mansour. He's just lost in his pain. Rashid's jaw tightened. Can you help him? The question hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility and danger. Emma knew that if she said yes, if she stepped back into this world, she would be opening herself up to all the pain she had been running from. But when she looked at Amir's tear-stained face, she knew she had no choice. I can try, she said. And in that moment, beneath a billionaire's table in the most expensive restaurant in Manhattan, 3 broken souls found each other. None of them knew it yet, but this was the beginning of something that would shake their worlds to their very foundations. Because the truth about Amir, about his trauma, about the accent that had stolen his voice, was far darker than anyone suspected. And when that truth finally came to light, it would shock not just them, but the entire world. Over the next hour, something remarkable happened. While Rashid's associates waited awkwardly in their seats, Emma worked with Amir beneath the table. She didn't try to force him out or make him speak. Instead, she simply sat with him, creating a safe space in the darkness. She taught him grounding techniques, showed him how to identify his emotions using a simple finger system she had developed years ago, and most importantly, she let him know that he was seen, that he mattered, that his pain was valid. Slowly, incrementally, Amir began to relax. His breathing steadied. His tears stopped. And when Emma finally extended her hand, palm up, offering but not demanding, he placed a small hand in hers. Rashid watched all of this from his chair, his expression unreadable. When Emma finally emerged from beneath the table with Amir holding her hand, the boy's face still buried against her side. Something shifted in the Sheikh's eyes. It was respect, genuine and undeniable. "How did you do that?" he asked quietly. Emma shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. "I just listened. Sometimes that's all children need. Someone who truly sees them." Rashid stood, his full height towering over her. "Dr. Carter, I would like to hire you. Name your price. Whatever you were making before, I will triple it. Amir needs you." Emma's first instinct was to refuse. She had sworn she would never practice again, never open herself up to the possibility of failure and betrayal. But then she felt Amir's hand tighten around hers, and she looked down to see him staring up at her with something that looked almost like hope. "I don't want your money," she said quietly, "but I will help Amir on one condition. This happens on my terms, at my pace. I won't be rushed, and I won't be questioned. If you can't accept that, find someone else." For a moment, she thought Rashid would explode at her audacity. No one spoke to him that way. No one made demands of Sheikh Rashid Al-Mansour. But instead, a slow smile spread across his face, the first genuine expression she had seen from him all evening. "You have courage," he said. "I respect that. Very well, Dr. Carter. We will do this your way. But know this, I protect what is mine. Amir is mine. If you help him, you will have my gratitude and my protection. But if you fail him, if you hurt him in any way, you will discover why people fear the name Al-Mansour." It was both a promise and a threat, and Emma felt the weight of it settle on her shoulders. She had just made a deal with one of the most powerful men in the world, and she had no idea that this decision would lead her down a path that would expose conspiracy, destroy a monster, and ultimately heal not just Amir, but herself as well. As Rashid gathered his things and prepared to leave, he paused beside Emma. "Tomorrow," he said, "come to my residence at 2:00. My assistant will send you the address. We begin then." Emma nodded, her heart pounding. After he left, she stood in the empty private dining room, still feeling the ghost of Amir's hand in hers, and wondered what she had just gotten herself into. What she didn't know was that across the city, in a sleek office overlooking Central Park, a man was receiving a very interesting phone call. Dr. Marcus Whitmore, director of the prestigious Whitmore Institute for Child Psychology, listened with growing interest as his contact at the Azure Pearl described the evening's events. "Emma Carter is back," the contact said, "and she's working with Sheikh Al-Mansour's nephew." Marcus leaned back in his leather chair, a slow smile spreading across his handsome face. Emma, his Emma, the woman whose brilliant mind he had exploited, whose work he had stolen, whose career he had destroyed to build his own empire. He had thought she was broken, finished, no longer a threat. But if she was working with a billionaire, if she was stepping back into the world of child psychology, that changed everything. Because Marcus had secrets, dark secrets that Emma's return threatened to expose. And he would do whatever it took to make sure she stayed silent, stayed invisible, stayed destroyed. The game had just begun, and the stakes were higher than anyone realized. Because the truth about Amir's accident, the truth that Marcus Whitmore was desperately hiding, was about to come crashing into the light. And when it did, the world would never be the same. The next afternoon, Emma stood outside the most intimidating building she had ever seen. Rashid's Manhattan residence was a modern architectural marvel, a sleek tower of glass and steel that rose 40 stories above Fifth Avenue. The entire top floor belonged to him, a penthouse that reportedly cost $150 million. Security guards in dark suits flanked the entrance, and Emma had to show her identification 3 times before she was even allowed into the lobby. As the private elevator whisked her upward, her stomach churned with anxiety. What was she doing? She was a waitress now, not a psychologist. She had no practice, no credentials that anyone would recognize, no confidence in her own abilities anymore. Marcus had made sure of that when he destroyed her. But then she thought of Amir's face, those enormous eyes filled with pain, and she straightened her shoulders. This wasn't about her. This was about a child who needed help. The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse, and Emma stepped into a world of unimaginable luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a 360-degree view of Manhattan, the city sprawling beneath her like a glittering toy. The interior was decorated in shades of cream and gold, with artwork that she recognized from museums and furniture that looked like it belonged in a palace. Everything was perfect, pristine, and utterly intimidating. Dr. Carter. Rashid appeared from a hallway, dressed more casually than the night before in dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Somehow, he was even more imposing without the formal suit. "Thank you for coming. Amir is in his room. He has been asking for you." "Asking?" Emma said, hopefully. "He spoke?" "No," Rashid said, his expression darkening. "But he has been standing by the window, watching the street, waiting. He knows you are coming." Emma's heart clenched. The fact that Amir was anticipating her arrival, that he had formed an attachment so quickly, was both encouraging and concerning. It meant he was capable of connection, but also meant he was vulnerable, desperate for someone to understand him. Rashid led her through the penthouse to a bedroom that was larger than Emma's entire apartment. It was decorated for a child, with toys and books and a bed shaped like a race car, but everything looked untouched and used. Amir stood by the window, his small figure silhouetted against the bright afternoon sun, and when he saw Emma, his face transformed. He didn't smile, not quite, but the tension in his small body eased, and he took a tentative step toward her. "Hello, Amir," Emma said softly, kneeling down to his level. "I'm so happy to see you again. Is it okay if I spend some time with you today?" Amir nodded, and then, to Emma's surprise, he walked directly to her and wrapped his small arms around her neck. She felt him trembling, felt the desperate need in his embrace, and she held him gently, letting him take whatever comfort he needed. Over his head, she met Rashid's eyes. The sheik was watching them with an expression she couldn't quite read. There was pain there and longing and something else. Envy, perhaps, as if he wished he could be the one to reach Amir, to break through the walls of trauma and fear. "I will leave you to work," Rashid said quietly. "If you need anything at all, press the button by the door. Someone will come immediately." After he left, Emma spent the next 3 hours with Amir. She didn't push him to speak or to explain what had happened. Instead, she used play therapy, art therapy, and simple presence. She brought out toys and let him choose how to interact with them. She gave him crayons and paper and watched as he drew picture after picture, each one revealing a little more of his inner world. The drawings were heartbreaking. Cars crashing, people lying still, darkness and chaos. But in the last drawing, there was something new. A small figure holding the hand of a larger figure, and above them, a sun. "Is this you?" Emma asked gently, pointing to the small figure. Amir nodded. "And is this me?" She pointed to the larger figure. Another nod. "We're safe here, aren't we? In the sunshine." Amir looked at her, and for the first time, she saw something other than fear in his eyes. She saw trust. Over the next 2 weeks, Emma came to the penthouse every day. She rearranged her schedule at the restaurant, working double shifts on weekends to make up the time, and spent her afternoons with Amir. Slowly, painstakingly, she began to build a foundation of safety and trust. She taught him that the world, while dangerous, also had safe spaces. She showed him that adults could be reliable, that he could depend on her to show up, to be present, to not abandon him. And Rashid watched. He was always there, hovering in the background, observing every session. At first, Emma found his presence unnerving, but she came to realize that he wasn't watching her. He was watching Amir, desperate to understand his nephew, to find a way to reach him himself. One evening, after a particularly good session where Amir had actually laughed at one of Emma's silly faces, Rashid asked her to stay for dinner. Emma hesitated, aware of the boundaries between professional and personal, but something in his expression made her agree. They ate in a dining room that could have seated 30, just the two of them at one end of an enormous table. It should have been awkward, but instead, they fell into easy conversation. Rashid asked about her training, her methods, her philosophy of treatment, and Emma, surprised at herself, opened up in a way she hadn't in years. "Children are resilient," she said, swirling the wine in her glass. "More resilient than we give them credit for. But they need to know that their pain is valid, that what happened to them matters. So many adults try to rush children through trauma to make them get over it quickly, but healing doesn't work that way. It's slow, it's messy, and it requires patience." "You speak from experience," Rashid observed. "Not just professional experience." Emma stiffened. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do," Rashid said gently. "You carry your own trauma, Dr. Carter. I can see it in the way you move through the world, as if you are trying not to be seen. Something happened to you, something that made you abandon a brilliant career and hide in a restaurant. What was it?" For a moment, Emma considered lying, deflecting, changing the subject. But there was something in Rashid's eyes, a genuine curiosity and concern, that made her want to tell the truth. "I was betrayed," she said quietly, "by someone I loved and trusted. My fiancé, Marcus Whitmore. We worked together, developed a treatment protocol for traumatized children. It was revolutionary, the culmination of 5 years of research. We were going to publish together, build a practice together, change the field together. But 2 weeks before our publication date, Marcus submitted the paper under his name alone. He claimed I had stolen the research from him, that I was trying to take credit for his work. He had fabricated evidence, forged emails, created an entire false narrative. And because he was charming and connected, and I was just a young female researcher, everyone believed him." Emma's voice cracked, and she took a shaky breath. "I lost everything. My reputation, my career, my fiancé, my future. The university launched an investigation, and even though they couldn't prove I had done anything wrong, the suspicion was enough. No one would hire me. No one would work with me. I became a pariah in my own field. So I disappeared. I became invisible. It was easier than fighting." Rashid was silent for a long moment, his dark eyes fixed on her face. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold with fury. "This Marcus Whitmore, where is he now?" "He runs the Whitmore Institute," Emma said bitterly. "One of the most prestigious child psychology clinics in the country. He built his entire career on my work, and everyone thinks he's a genius. And you let him get away with it." The words stung because they were true. Emma had let Marcus win. She had been so broken, so devastated, that she had simply given up. "I had no proof," she said defensively. "No evidence. It was his word against mine, and he had already poisoned everyone against me. What was I supposed to do?" Rashid leaned forward, his gaze intense. "You were supposed to fight. You were supposed to stand up and demand justice. You were supposed to refuse to be erased." Easy for you to say. Emma shot back, anger flaring. "You're a billionaire. You have power, resources, connections. I had nothing. I was alone." "You are not alone now," Rashid said quietly. "And if you want justice, if you want to reclaim what was stolen from you, I can help. I have resources you cannot imagine. Investigators, lawyers, connections in every corner of the world. Say the word, and I will destroy Marcus Whitmore. I will take everything from him, just as he took everything from you." Emma stared at him, her heart pounding. The offer was tempting, so tempting. To finally have someone believe her, to have someone powerful on her side, to watch Marcus face consequences for what he had done. But she was also afraid. Afraid of hoping, afraid of fighting, afraid of being hurt again. "Why would you do that?" she whispered. "Why would you help me?" Rashid's expression softened. "Because you are helping Amir. Because you are brilliant and kind, and you deserve better than to hide in the shadows. And because I recognize injustice when I see it. In my culture, we have a saying, the one who does not thank people does not thank God. You have given me hope for my nephew. The least I can do is give you hope for yourself. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. She couldn't remember the last time someone had seen her, truly seen her, and valued what they saw. I don't know if I'm ready, she admitted. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are stronger than you know, Rashid said. I have watched you with Amir. You face his pain without flinching. You hold space for his trauma, without trying to fix it too quickly. That takes immense strength. Apply that same courage to your own life, Dr. Carter. Fight for yourself the way you fight for him. The word settled into Emma's heart, planting a seed that would slowly begin to grow. For the first time in 3 years, she allowed herself to imagine a different future. A future where she wasn't hiding, where she wasn't invisible, where she reclaimed her voice and her power. But what neither of them knew was that Marcus Whitmore was already making his move. He had been watching, waiting, gathering information, and he had just discovered something that would change everything. Because Marcus had a secret, a dark secret connected to Amir's accident. And if Emma continued working with the boy, if she dug too deep, she might uncover the truth. And Marcus would do anything, absolutely anything, to make sure that never happened. The battle lines were being drawn, and the war for justice, for truth, for healing, was about to begin. 3 weeks into her work with Amir, Emma arrived at the penthouse to find Rashid pacing in the living room. His phone pressed to his ear, his expression thunderous. He was speaking rapid Arabic, his voice sharp with anger. And when he saw Emma, he held up a finger, asking her to wait. Emma stood awkwardly by the elevator, clutching her bag of therapy materials, until Rashid finally ended the call and turned to her. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "Dr. Marcus Whitmore has contacted me. He claims to be the foremost expert in childhood trauma in the United States, and he has offered his services to treat Amir. He says he has heard through professional channels that I am working with an unqualified individual, and that he is concerned for my nephew's well-being." Emma's blood ran cold. "He knows I'm here." "Yes," Rashid confirmed. "And he is trying to discredit you before you can make any real progress. He sent me a dossier, Emma. A file full of accusations, forged documents, testimonials from colleagues claiming you are unstable, unethical, dangerous. He is trying to convince me to fire you and hire him instead." Emma sank onto the nearest chair, her legs suddenly weak. Of course Marcus had found out. He had always been connected, always had his fingers in every corner of the professional world. And now he was doing exactly what she had feared, using his power and reputation to destroy her all over again. "I understand if you want me to leave," she said quietly, unable to meet Rashid's eyes. "I never meant to bring my problems into your home. Amir deserves better than to be caught in the middle of my mess." "Look at me," Rashid commanded, and Emma reluctantly raised her eyes. His expression was fierce, protective. "I did not build an empire by being easily manipulated. I had Marcus Whitmore investigate the moment he contacted me. Do you know what my people found?" Emma shook her head. "Inconsistencies," Rashid said. "Gaps in his story. The timeline of his publications does not match his claimed research periods. His credentials, while impressive, have several anomalies. And most interesting, there are whispers, quiet rumors that he has a history of taking credit for other people's work. You are not his first victim. Emma, you are simply the one he destroyed most completely." Hope flared in Emma's chest, fragile and terrifying. "You believe me?" "I believe what I see," Rashid said. "And what I see is a woman who has brought light back into my nephew's eyes. What I see is someone who works with integrity, compassion, and skill. Marcus Whitmore can send me 1,000 dossiers, and it will not change what I know to be true. You are exactly who Amir needs, and I will not let anyone take that away from him." Emma felt tears spill down her cheeks. She had been alone for so long, fighting invisible battles, carrying the weight of injustice by herself. To have someone believe her, to have someone powerful stand beside her, was overwhelming. "Thank you," she whispered. "Do not thank me yet," Rashid said grimly, "because Marcus Whitmore is not going to give up easily. He will escalate. He will try to force my hand. We need to be prepared." "Prepared for what?" For war, Rashid said simply. He has fired the first shot. Now we must respond. But we will do it strategically, carefully. We will gather evidence, build a case, and when the time is right, we will expose him for exactly what he is, a fraud and a thief. Over the next few days, Rashid's team of investigators went to work. They interviewed Emma extensively, documenting every detail of her relationship with Marcus, every piece of research they had done together, every conversation and email she could remember. They tracked down former colleagues, students, and patients. They analyzed Marcus's publications, looking for patterns and inconsistencies. And slowly, a picture began to emerge. Marcus Whitmore was not just a thief. He was a serial plagiarist who had built his entire career on the backs of others. Emma was his most high-profile victim, but there were others. A graduate student whose dissertation had been stolen. A research assistant whose innovative technique had been claimed as Marcus's own. A colleague whose grant proposal had been copied word for word. But more disturbing were the whispers about his clinical work. Patients who had not improved under his care. Families who felt he was more interested in publicity than in actual treatment. And one case, buried deep in sealed court records, of a child who had been harmed by Marcus's negligence. "This is bigger than we thought," Rashid told Emma one evening as they reviewed the findings. "Marcus Whitmore is not just unethical. He is dangerous. And if we're going to take him down, we need to do it in a way that ensures he can never hurt anyone again." Emma nodded, feeling a strange mixture of vindication and fear. She had always known Marcus was selfish and ambitious, but she had never imagined the full extent of his corruption. "There's something else," Rashid said, his expression troubled. "My investigators found a connection between Marcus and Amir's accident. It is tenuous, but exists. 6 months ago, Marcus was in Dubai. He was there as a consultant for a wealthy family, treating their child. That family was connected to my brother's family. Marcus met my brother and sister-in-law at a social event, and they discussed Amir's behavioral issues. My brother mentioned that Amir had been having nightmares, anxiety, trouble at school. Marcus offered his services." Emma's heart began to pound. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that Marcus Whitmore was supposed to evaluate Amir the week of the accident," Rashid said, his voice tight with suppressed rage. "He was supposed to meet with my brother and sister-in-law to discuss a treatment plan, but he canceled at the last minute, claiming an emergency. The appointment was rescheduled for the day after the accident, the day my brother and sister-in-law died. The implications hung in the air between them, dark and terrible." "You think Marcus knows something about the accident?" Emma said slowly. "I think it is a coincidence that cannot be ignored," Rashid said. "And I think we need to find out exactly what Marcus Whitmore was doing in Dubai and why he was so eager to work with my family." But before they could investigate further, Marcus made his next move, and it was more aggressive than either of them had anticipated. Emma was leaving the penthouse late one evening when she was approached by a man in a suit. He identified himself as a representative from the New York State Board of Psychology and informed her that a formal complaint had been filed against her. She was accused of practicing psychology without a valid license, of endangering a child, and of misrepresenting her credentials. There would be an investigation, and if the allegations were substantiated, she could face criminal charges. Emma knew immediately who was behind it. Marcus had weaponized the system against her, using his connections and influence to turn her attempt to help Amir into a crime. When she told Rashid, his fury was incandescent. "He dares to threaten you under my protection?" he said, his voice dangerously quiet. "He has made a grave mistake. What are we going to do?" Emma asked, trying to keep the panic out of her voice. Rashid's smile was cold and predatory. "We are going to give Marcus Whitmore exactly what he wants. We are going to invite him here, to meet Amir, to demonstrate his superior skills. And while he is here, we are going to destroy him." Emma stared at him. "That's a trap." "Yes," Rashid agreed, "and he will walk right into it, because his arrogance will not allow him to see it coming. Trust me, Emma, I have been playing these games since before Marcus Whitmore learned to lie. He is out of his depth, and he does not even know it yet. And so the trap was set." Rashid contacted Marcus, expressing concerns about Emma's qualifications and requesting a consultation. Marcus, confident in his victory, agreed immediately. He would come to the penthouse, evaluate Amir, and demonstrate why he was the only one qualified to treat the boy. What Marcus didn't know was that every moment of his visit would be recorded. Every word, every action, every reveal would be documented. And by the time he left, Rashid and Emma would have everything they needed to end him. The day of Marcus's visit arrived, and Emma felt sick with anxiety. She hadn't seen him in 3 years, hadn't heard his voice or looked into his eyes since the day he had destroyed her. She didn't know if she was strong enough to face him. But when the elevator doors opened and Marcus Whitmore stepped into the penthouse, Emma discovered something surprising. She wasn't afraid. She was angry. Marcus looked exactly as she remembered, tall, handsome, with perfectly styled blonde hair and a smile that had once made her heart race. He wore an expensive suit and carried himself with the confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences. When he saw Emma, his smile widened, and there was a cruelty in his eyes that she had never noticed before. "Emma," he said warmly, as if they were old friends, "what a surprise to see you here. I had heard you were working as a waitress. I'm so glad you found your level." The words were designed to wound, to remind her of her fall, to put her in her place. But Emma had spent weeks with Rashid, learning to see her own worth, remembering her own strength. She met Marcus's eyes steadily and said nothing. Rashid stepped forward, his presence commanding. "Dr. Whitmore, thank you for coming. I am eager to see your methods. Emma has been working with Amir for several weeks, but I am always open to expert consultation." The word expert was delivered with just enough emphasis to be insulting, but Marcus was too arrogant to notice. "Of course," he said smoothly. "I'm sure Emma has done her best, but childhood trauma requires a level of expertise that takes years to develop. I've treated hundreds of cases like Amir's. I know exactly what he needs." "Then please," Rashid said, gesturing toward Amir's room, "show us." What happened next would become seared into Emma's memory forever. Marcus entered Amir's room with the confidence of someone who believed he was the smartest person in any room. He didn't kneel to Amir's level, didn't introduce himself gently, didn't take time to build rapport. Instead, he launched immediately into an aggressive therapeutic technique, demanding that Amir speak, pushing him to confront his trauma, using methods that Emma recognized as outdated and potentially harmful. Amir's reaction was immediate and devastating. The boy, who had been making such progress, who had been slowly opening up, shut down completely. His eyes went blank, his body went rigid, and he began to shake uncontrollably. It was a full trauma response, and Marcus, incredibly, didn't even notice. He just kept pushing, kept demanding, kept insisting that Amir needed to face his fears. "Stop," Emma said, unable to watch any longer. "You're hurting him." Marcus turned to her with irritation. "I'm doing my job. This is what real therapy looks like. Emma, not your soft, coddling approach. Children need to be pushed through their trauma, not allowed to wallow in it." "That's not true," Emma said, her voice shaking with fury. "That's not how trauma works, and you know it. Or you would know it if you had actually done the research you claim to have done." Marcus's expression darkened. "Are you questioning my credentials?" "I'm questioning everything about you," Emma said, and suddenly all the fear, all the pain, all the years of silence came pouring out. "You stole my work, Marcus. You destroyed my career, my reputation, my life. And for what? So you could build an empire on lies? So you could pretend to be something you're not." "You're delusional," Marcus said coldly. "I did the research. I developed the protocols. You were just my assistant, and you tried to take credit for my work. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows the story you told," Emma corrected, "but it's not the truth, and I'm done being silent. I'm done letting you win." Marcus took a step toward her, his face twisted with anger, and for a moment Emma thought he might actually hurt her. But then Rashid was there, placing himself between them, his presence a wall of protection. "That is enough," Rashid said, his voice like ice. "Dr. Whitmore, you will leave my home now. And you will never contact me, my nephew, or Dr. Carter again." Marcus laughed, but there was an edge of panic in it. "You're making a mistake. Emma is unqualified, unlicensed, dangerous. I've filed complaints with the state board. She'll be facing criminal charges soon. You're protecting a fraud. No, Rashid said quietly. I am protecting a brilliant psychologist from a con artist. And you, Dr. Whitmore, are about to discover what happens when you threaten someone under my protection. He nodded to someone behind Marcus, and suddenly the room was filled with people. Lawyers, investigators, even a police officer. Marcus's face went white as he realized he had walked into a trap. What is this? He demanded. This is justice, Rashid said. You see, while you were busy demonstrating your expertise, my team was busy gathering evidence. We have testimony from 7 of your former colleagues and assistants, all of whom you plagiarized. We have analysis of your publications showing clear patterns of theft. We have financial records proving you profited from stolen work. And most damningly, we have evidence of your negligence in Dubai 6 months ago. Marcus's face went from white to gray. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? Rashid's voice was deadly. Let me refresh your memory. 6 months ago, you were in Dubai, consulting for a family. You met my brother and sister-in-law. They told you about Amir's issues, and you agreed to evaluate him. But you were drunk during your consultation with the other family, weren't you? You missed critical signs of distress in their child. And when that child had a crisis, when they needed immediate intervention, you were nowhere to be found. You were too busy drinking, too busy networking, too busy building your reputation to actually do your job. That has nothing to do with your brother's accident, Marcus said desperately. Doesn't it? Rashid moved closer, and Emma could see the rage barely contained beneath his controlled exterior. My brother and sister-in-law were driving to meet you the day they died. They were rushing because you had rescheduled the appointment 3 times, and they were worried about Amir. They were distracted, upset, and they made a mistake. They ran a red light, and a truck hit them, and they died, and Amir watched it all happen. So tell me, Dr. Whitmore, how is their death not connected to your negligence? The room was silent. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. He had no defense, no explanation, no way out. You can't prove any of this, he finally said, but his voice was weak. Actually, we can, one of the lawyers said, stepping forward. We have phone records, emails, testimony from a family you were treating in Dubai. We have evidence of your drinking, your negligence, your pattern of putting your own interests above your patient's well-being. The medical board in Dubai is already investigating. And once we share our findings with the New York State Board of Psychology, your license will be revoked. Your career is over, Dr. Whitmore. Marcus looked around the room, seeing his destruction reflected in every face. And then his eyes landed on Emma, and she saw something she had never expected to see. Fear. Emma, he said, his voice pleading, we can work this out. We were partners once. We can be partners again. I'll give you credit. I'll share everything. Just don't do this. Emma looked at the man who had once been her fiancé, her colleague, her future. The man who had betrayed her so completely that she had lost herself, and she felt nothing but pity. No, Marcus, she said quietly. We were never partners. You used me, exploited me, and threw me away when I was no longer useful. But I'm not that person anymore. I'm not the woman you destroyed. I'm someone stronger, someone who knows her worth. And I will never, ever let you hurt anyone else the way you hurt me. Marcus's face crumpled, and for a moment Emma thought he might cry. But then his expression hardened into hatred, and she saw the real man beneath the charming facade. He was small, petty, and cruel, and he had finally been caught. You'll regret this, he hissed as a police officer stepped forward to escort him out. Both of you. I'll fight this. I'll destroy you. You are welcome to try, Rashid said calmly. But I think you will find that I am a far more formidable opponent than a young psychologist with no resources. You made a mistake when you came after Emma. You made an even bigger mistake when your negligence contributed to my brother's death. And now you will pay for both. As Marcus was led away, still protesting, still threatening, Emma felt something break open inside her. It was relief, yes, but also grief. Grief for the years she had lost, for the woman she had been, for the innocence that Marcus had stolen. She had won, but the victory was bittersweet. Rashid must have seen something in her face because he dismissed everyone else and then turned to her with unexpected gentleness. "Are you all right?" "I don't know," Emma admitted. "I thought I would feel triumphant, but I just feel tired." "That is normal," Rashid said. "Justice is satisfying, but it does not erase the pain that came before. You will need time to process this, to heal. But know this, Emma, you were magnificent. You faced a man who destroyed you, and you did not flinch. You stood your ground. You are remarkable." Emma looked up at him. This powerful man who had chosen to believe her, to fight for her, to stand beside her when no one else would. And she felt something shift in her chest. Something warm and terrifying and wonderful. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything. I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have," Rashid said. "You are stronger than you know. I simply gave you the resources to fight. The courage was always yours." They stood there for a moment, the air between them charged with something neither of them was quite ready to name. And then a small sound broke the spell. They both turned to see Amir standing in the doorway of his room, his eyes wide, his small body trembling. Emma immediately went to him, kneeling down. "I'm so sorry you had to see that," she said gently. "That man is gone now. He won't come back. You're safe." Amir looked at her, and then at Rashid, and then back at her. His lips moved, forming words that wouldn't come. Emma could see the struggle, the desperate need to communicate, to express what he was feeling. "It's okay," she said softly. "You don't have to speak. I understand." But Amir shook his head. He took a deep breath, his small hands clenching into fists, and then, in a voice rusty from disuse, he whispered a single word. "Stay." Emma's eyes filled with tears. It was the first word Amir had spoken in 6 months, and he had used it to ask her not to leave him. "I'll stay," she promised. "I'm not going anywhere." Amir's face crumpled, and he threw himself into her arms, sobbing. But these were different tears than before. These were tears of release, of relief, of finally being able to express the emotions that had been locked inside him for so long. Rashid watched them, and Emma saw his own eyes glisten with unshed tears. This moment, this breakthrough, was what they had been fighting for, and it was worth everything. Over the next few weeks, the world learned the truth about Marcus Whitmore. The story broke in major news outlets. Renowned psychologists exposed his fraud, built career on stolen work. Negligence contributed to tragic accident. His license was revoked, his institute was shut down, and he faced multiple lawsuits from former patients and colleagues. His fall from grace was swift and absolute. And Emma was offered her position back at Columbia University, along with a formal apology and a request to publish her original research under her own name. The Carter Protocol was finally recognized as hers, and institutions around the world began implementing it. She was invited to speak at conferences, to consult on difficult cases, to train other therapists. But more important than any professional recognition was what happened with Amir. The boy continued to heal, slowly but steadily. He began to speak more, first in whispers, then in full sentences. He started to play, to laugh, to engage with the world again. The nightmares didn't disappear entirely, but they became less frequent, less intense. He was learning to live with his trauma, to integrate it into his story, without letting it define him. And through it all, Emma and Rashid grew closer. What had started as a professional relationship, a transaction of help and protection, deepened into something neither of them had expected. They spent hours talking, sharing their own traumas and fears, discovering that beneath their different exteriors, they were remarkably similar. Both had been shaped by loss. Both carried the weight of responsibility. Both had learned to hide their vulnerabilities behind walls of control. But with each other, those walls began to crumble. One evening, 3 months after Marcus's exposure, Rashid asked Emma to join him on the penthouse terrace. The sun was setting over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and the city stretched out beneath them like a living thing. "I have something to tell you," Rashid said, his usual confidence replaced by something that looked almost like nervousness. "And I need you to listen without interrupting." Emma nodded, her heart beginning to race. When you first came into my life, I saw you as a means to an end, Rashid said, a tool to help Amir. I did not see you as a person, as someone with value beyond what you could provide. I am ashamed of that now, because over these months you have become essential, not just to Amir, but to me. You have shown me what true strength looks like. You have taught me that power is not just about money or influence, but about integrity, compassion, and courage. You have made me want to be a better man. He paused, and Emma saw him struggle with words. This man who commanded empires and negotiated billion-dollar deals. I am not good at this, he admitted. I am not good at being vulnerable, at admitting need. But I need you, Emma, not as Amir's therapist, not as an employee, as a partner, as an equal, as someone I cannot imagine my life without. Emma's breath caught. She had felt the connection between them growing, had noticed the way his eyes followed her, the way he found excuses to be near her. But she had convinced herself it was gratitude, nothing more. She had never imagined that Sheikh Rashid Al-Mansour, one of the most powerful men in the world, could feel about her the way she was beginning to feel about him. I'm scared, she whispered. I've been betrayed before. I've trusted before, and it destroyed me. How do I know this is real? How do I know you won't hurt me? Rashid took her hands in his, and she felt the warmth of his touch, the steadiness of his grip. You don't, he said honestly. Love always requires a leap of faith. But I can promise you this. I will never lie to you. I will never betray you. I will never use your trust as a weapon. And if I ever hurt you, it will be by mistake, not by design, and I will spend every day making it right. You have my word, and my word is everything. Emma looked into his eyes and saw the truth there. This was real. This was a man who had seen her at her lowest and had chosen to lift her up, a man who had fought for her when she couldn't fight for herself, a man who valued her mind, her heart, her strength. I love you, she said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. I don't know when it happened or how, but I love you, and that terrifies me. Rashid's face transformed, a smile breaking across his features like sunrise. Then we will be terrified together, he said, because I love you too, Emma Carter. I love your courage, your compassion, your brilliant mind. I love the way you see people, really see them, in a way I never learned to do. I love who I am when I am with you. And I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you that you made the right choice in trusting me. He pulled her close, and Emma let herself sink into his embrace, feeling safe in a way she hadn't felt in years. They stood there on the terrace as the sun set, and the stars began to appear, two broken people who had found healing in each other. But their moment was interrupted by a small voice. Emma? Uncle Rashid. They turned to see Amir standing in the doorway, his stuffed bear clutched in one hand. He looked between them, and then a shy smile crossed his face. Are you going to get married? Emma laughed, surprised by the directness of the question. I don't know, sweetheart. We're just figuring things out. I hope you do, Amir said seriously, because I want Emma to stay forever, and I want Uncle Rashid to be happy, and you make each other happy. Out of the mouths of babes, Emma thought. This child, who had been through so much trauma, who had lost his parents and his voice, could still see love and hope and possibility. He was healing, and in healing, he was teaching them how to heal too. Rashid looked at Emma, and she saw the question in his eyes. It was too soon, far too soon, but somehow it also felt exactly right. What do you say, Dr. Carter? He asked softly. Will you take a chance on us? On this strange, unexpected family we created. Emma thought about everything she had been through. The betrayal, the loss, the years of hiding. She thought about the woman she had been and the woman she was becoming. And she thought about the future, uncertain and terrifying and full of possibility. Yes, she said. Yes, I will. Amir cheered, and Rashid swept him into his arms, spinning her around as she laughed. And in that moment, on a terrace high above Manhattan, three people who had been broken by tragedy found something precious, a second chance at happiness, at family, at love. The story of the timid waitress who found a crying child under a billionaire's table spread around the world. But the real story, the one that mattered, was a story of healing, of justice, of three souls who found each other in the darkness and chose to walk toward the light together. And they lived not happily ever after, because life is never that simple, but happily enough, with love, with purpose, with the knowledge that they had fought for each other and won. And that was more than enough.